Hello and welcome. This video is intended as your guide to the manner in which the video lessons on the verbal ability part of the CAT is organized, as well as the intention behind its organizational principle. We begin with a general introduction to the verbal ability part of the examination and then go on to the detailed lessons of its various components. The entire lesson is intended as a journey that you will undertake in a phased manner in order to pitch yourself at a higher level with each subsequent set of lessons. This is why we begin with reading comprehension, as learning to read passages and answering questions on them teach you the necessary reading skills to tackle other questions in this part too. In our experience of training students for the verbal ability part of aptitude exams over the last few years, we have noticed that most students fall into two basic categories. The first category is of the students who have sensitivity to linguistic nuances and work with it with a certain flair. The second category is of those students who are average readers and are by and large disengaged with the process of reading and writing. The first category of students understand the multiple ways in which language is used for communication, to give shape to ideas, and to generate appropriate emotions in the readers. These students read not just the written or the printed word, but also what is implied and not stated directly. They can manage to do this because their reading and comprehension habits are not superficial and half-engaged. Also, they see language as a dynamic and powerful instrument of communication that can change its meaning with even a slight change in the use of words, punctuations, or even the tone. While these students have a better than average vocabulary, it is not the only thing that sets them apart from the others. They also have what can be called as a flair for the language. That is, they not only like to read and write in English, but they also do it better simply by being alert to not just what is stated, but also to how it is stated. This ability to read beyond the obvious, along with better vocabulary and a good hold over grammar, is actually what sets them apart. Let me show you some examples of what I have just stated. Look at the following sentence. This is a very popular example that you might have come across in humor sections of various magazines. Woman without her man is nothing. Now this sentence can change its meaning with a slight change in the punctuation marks. It can be read as, woman without her man is nothing, or woman without her man is nothing. Okay, look at another example. The price of petrol has risen again, she said. The price of petrol has risen again, she mused. The price of petrol has risen again, she exclaimed. The price of petrol has risen again, she countered. With every change of the last word in each of the above sentences, the sentiment also changes, as does the mood of the speaker. In the first sentence, the word said makes the line matter of fact, where the woman merely states a fact, that is, the rise in the price of petrol. The mood of the speaker here is neutral. In the second sentence, said is replaced by mused. This change in word changes the mood altogether. Mused means to mull over or to reflect on something. The mood of the speaker, therefore, is thoughtful or contemplative when she states that the price of petrol has risen again. Perhaps she wonders why this has happened again. You cannot be sure as to the content of her wonder, but you can be sure that she is definitely thoughtful when she says these words. In the next example, mused is replaced by exclaimed. This again changes the sentiment associated with what the speaker says. This time, she is more than thoughtful. She is surprised, agitated, or even upset. Again, you cannot be sure, but you can definitely be sure of the fact that the speaker is in a high emotional state here. Finally, in the last example, the word that has been used is countered. This word is again very suggestive. It does several things. 1. It implies that there is at least one other person with whom the woman is having a conversation. 2. This statement comes as a challenge to or a negation of what someone has stated. 3. The mood of the woman or of the situation is that of a debate or an argument where the woman offers this statement in order to challenge what has been presumably said by her companion. Thus, notice that every word is significant in building up the meaning of a sentence. Similarly, every sentence is significant in constructing the meaning of a paragraph. Thus, in a traditional understanding of reading comprehension, it is very important to focus on each part of a sentence when you read to comprehend a passage. We will teach you how to do that, as well as test-taking strategies where this kind of close reading would be needed in only around 30% of the passage. Now, going back to our analysis of the two categories of students, the second category is that of the average readers who are by and large unengaged with the process of reading and writing in English. This could be because of a limited range of vocabulary, or because of a lack of proper grammatical skills, or simply due to lazy reading habits. These students are disinterested readers of English. In fact, they are very often disinterested readers of any language, including their mother tongue, and their reading habits are sloppy and careless. Unlike the good readers, these students are insensitive to the variety of tools that a language has for communication by the use of undertones, allusions, or any other kind of indirect references, and thus their ability to comprehend texts is severely hampered. These students would most likely not notice the difference that occurs by substituting the word said by exclaimed or any other word that we have seen in the above example. Now, it wouldn't take a lot of mental effort to understand why the first category of students outperform the latter in the verbal ability tests. As a student, you have to understand that it is an accepted fact that students who can deal with English with greater insight and control over its tools of communication will invariably perform better. It is the same as in maths. If you understand the principles of mathematics better, you are better situated to solve difficult questions on it as you are equipped to target it better. Your mind works at it better, you comprehend it more easily and skillfully, and most significantly, you can see through the clever games that the mathematicians play in order to trap a student when they set a difficult question paper. It is the same with languages. Thus, for success in comparative exams, it is necessary that you familiarize yourself with the resources of the English language. It is necessary that not only should you become comfortable with its basic building blocks like grammar and words, but also with the way language works on the intellect and the emotions of a reader. Now, the good news here is this process isn't difficult at all, particularly given that you don't have to do an honors course in a literary studies program. You just need to develop a moderate degree of sensitivity to the English language, and that itself will go a very long way in significantly improving your scores in CAT. This is something that every student can achieve with some effort. Remember, the real challenge lies not in learning the art of test-taking strategies, but in practicing them to the extent that it becomes a second nature for the candidate. Therefore, practice hard and long what we teach. What we will teach you here in these video lessons are the following. 1. We will begin by sensitizing you to the proper reading strategies. This is vital because, as stated before, you have to have a minimum level of competence and skill sets in English and comprehension of texts written in the language in order to start equipping yourself with more evolved test-taking strategies. You can't get around careful reading. Even though certain faster reading techniques require skimming certain parts of the passages in RC, remember that you have to carefully read at least 30 to 40% of the passage. And even more significantly, you have to very carefully read through answer choices in order to eliminate the wrong ones. You'll notice that very often the distinction between the right answer and the wrong answer choice is very minor. In fact, it is frequently the presence or the absence of a word or a sentiment expressed through a particular word and no more. Thus, knowing how to engage with language is important, even for the aptitude exam test takers. Reading skills are required not just for RC passages but for the entire verbal ability paper. Pick up any question in VA paper. You will be at a loss for the right answer if you lack the necessary reading skills. For this reason, therefore, a section of these video lessons take you through old-fashioned traditional reading methodologies. These videos relate to the structure of the passage, main idea, and the style of the passage. They also familiarize you with common structural and stylistic principles that are often used by writers. Learn these methodologies to see how language works as a distinct discipline, and this knowledge will lay the foundation for increasing your comfort level by several notches in the VA paper. In addition, in our experience with students over the last few years, we have noticed that a majority of the students have trouble applying the shortcuts if they are not initiated into the traditional way of picking up the nuances of a language while reading. Thus, This stage is a necessary platform and an indispensable launchpad for the next stage, where we will teach you more evolved skills for reading faster, more efficiently, and still managing to answer questions with a high degree of accuracy. A word of caution here. Do not spend a lot of time at this stage though. This is merely a preparatory stage for better things to come. Thus, learn these skills very rapidly and then move on to the next stage of your preparation for VA. Second, with the first stage over, we will now take you through several tried and tested test-taking strategies that have consistently helped students excel in CAT and other aptitude exams. At this point, it is important for you to realize that although languages are subjective mediums of expression, that is, they work with a fair degree of difference with different users, your task is made a little easy by the fact that you have to give a comparative exam. A comparative exam is by definition fairly standardized. What this means is that the questions are set in such a manner that the scope for subjective interpretations on the part of the candidate is minimized. You will be asked to perform tasks that most people would do in a similar manner. And if the methods are right, then they would arrive at the same answer. Also, the presence of answer option choices also play a significant role in limiting your freedom for subjectively interpreting the questions asked. Thus, though the RC passages may allow for a range of interpretations, yet the answers to the questions asked can, to a high degree, be objectively decided. Now, this is where the role of strategies becomes significant. Therefore, in the next several videos, we will unpack several identifiable parameters of the RC for you and show you how almost every question can be typified and answered with the use of a set procedure. In addition, we will also show you how you can read a passage faster without missing out on the important ideas, and how you can create a morphology of the passage as you read for answering questions related to the smaller details contained in the passage. We will also demonstrate to you the various categories of questions that are asked in RC, as well as the standard categories into which the wrong answers can be classified. The latter is very useful as it will help you avoid the traps that the paper setters build in order to lure a careless reader. Finally, and very importantly, we will also teach you reading strategies for exigencies, for situations when you are left with very little time and still have one more RC passage to complete. Thirdly, we will teach you not just the fundamentals of grammar, but also the particular areas from which the paper setters test your knowledge of its correct usage. We will demonstrate to you the common errors that the majority of the students make and the reason why that error occurs, thus helping you avoid it in future. In addition, we will also teach you the right methodology of answering questions related to FIJs, parajumbles, and logical continuity, discontinuity questions in the shortest possible time. Okay, in the next video, I will turn your attention to two things. One, a detailed description of the verbal ability part of CAT, and two, the things that you need to do in order to excel in this section of your exam. Goodbye till then.